Hello everyone, Floppy Waffle 69 here, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we are looking at the next ship in this, what is this? In the Name of Tomorrow event that you can obtain via victory tokens that I believe you can obtain via the loot crates. This is the Montcalm, the Mount Calamity, whatever you want to call it. Basically a copy-paste Legal Assassinaire with a few tweaks. But in my humble opinion, again, it could be controversial, but again, it's my opinion. I don't really give a fuck. The better of the two ships. If we're looking at the Orion 44, which we did the other day, and now we have the Mount Calamities here, I'm going with this one. And why am I going with this one? Well, I just think the whole identity of the cruiser, it is indeed an easier cruiser to play. Because the big distinction between this and, let's say, her sister ship, the Legal Assassinaire, would be that you have an insane amount of range. I mean, a lot of tier 10s would want this range, right? Like the Des Moines has what, 15.8, Minotaur 15.8, Worcester at like 16 point something. This thing's got it's a whopping 18-kilometer range, which is insane for tier 6. I mean, just in general, right? Insane. And the shell ballistics aren't too bad either, and we'll touch on that in a bit. But that is the big distinction, and the reason why you play this thing is because this is a backline HE spammer down at tier 6, which is insane because this thing can outrange some battleships for its tier. So it really has a lot of things going for it. The one big thing going for it, whereas the Orion 44 really just had that specialized repair teams, at least in my opinion, right? Again, forcing you to get up and closer to the action and have survivability, well, this thing is teaching you to go further in the back. So basically, polar opposites of one another and how they're supposed to be played. This ship also has HE, and it's not an only AP only ship, which is nice. It means it's going to be a little bit more flexible in regards of shooting all targets rather than just specific targets. Also, the ship does come with the main battery reload booster, so that means we can set our fires. Enemy battleship can go ahead and put that out, and we can go ahead and pop that son of a bitch, and maybe potentially set two or three more fires on that battleship, while his damage control party is now on cooldown for 60-80 seconds or whatever. And the HE really is, it's not bad, right? I mean, you have a 12% fire chance. Your fires per minute come out to 7.5 fires per minute, right? And then the damage is 2200, and I believe if we look at the, where are you? If we're talking about like raw HE DPM, the Montcalm is coming out 138,000, while the Legal Assassinaire is 132,000. So it is a little bit better in the HE DPM department. It also has more or better AP DPM as well, which is 200,930, where the Legal Assassinaire is just a little bit underneath that as well. Again, marginal differences, and that really comes down to the reload speed of the ships. You have the Legal Assassinaire coming in at 9 seconds, and you have the Montcalm coming in at 8.6. So it just reloads a tad bit faster. But like I said, the big reason why you'd want to play this ship is because it is theoretically a safer ship to play, because you're playing more towards the rear of the map. Again, a lot of cruisers either, they don't have heals, their range is pretty ass, their armor is always shit, so they're forced to get up into the action, and usually with plane spotting or just being detected in general, they try to do those game returns and they get walloped and get sent back to port really quick. And they're basically live or die based upon their concealment and or islands. Well, this thing basically survives at staying max range and being out of sight, out of mind. I mean, honestly, the battleship with floatier shells, like you're seeing in the background with the Colorado attempting to shoot me, it's really not that hard to dodge. Again, especially if you're using my half speed technique that I like to utilize, and then when I see the muzzle flash go down to a full reverse, this allows me to dodge a lot easier and take full advantage of the, I guess, aim. Not bug. Well, there's an aim bug. We all know that, but like how the aiming system is designed in game, which is super nice. It's about time that the tides returned in the department of putting the cruiser in control of the engagement at times, which is what you want to be doing. Now, where this thing bites ass is if you can, if you push in. This thing has no armor and has a massive citadel, as you're familiar with if you've played the Legal Assassinaire. Pretty much copy pasta holes. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to push in this thing, and which is crazy because we all like more high octane gameplay. and I'm being one of them. And yes, I understand that with the ship the other day that I reviewed, a little bit like a quick analysis, was the Orion 44, which it does offer that. It just, to me, the whole identity of the Leander being aggressive and blah blah and so with the hull, and I just wasn't a big fan of it. And I wish I could be here and sit and say like, well, like, yeah, like I like the Orion 44 more, and this ship just says, it's not healthy for the game, blah blah and so. But like, this is definitely a more fun ship to play, and why is that? Because it's easier. It is an easier ship to play inherently, just because you are towards the end of the map or towards the back of the map, behind your allies, usually spamming HE. That's what it is. It is an HE spammer through and through. And again, there's a lot of ships that this, your captain could be bounced back and forth if you want to do that. I know, like, the Brennus is probably a good example with Armory, the fourth. There's definitely a lot of ships that this thing could bounce commanders if you want to do that. Personally, you all know my situation. I'm not a big fan of that, just for me and the way I play the game. But if you do that, hey, this ship can very easily be a good, excellent crew trainer for your captains. So, going in more to about the stats, I mean, pretty identical pretty much to the lesson air in almost every way, shape, or form, from the acceleration, the max speed, turning circle radius, rudder shift. There really isn't any noticeable differences, so I'm not really going to touch on any of those. But the one thing about this ship that I think sometimes is overlooked, that I don't even remember, I didn't even kind of overlooked it when I played, especially like the Le Glace en Air, is the number 3 turret. As the hull looks pretty elongated, and it's kind of sits way back there, like far back on the ship. The gun firing angle is not the best, and it's actually identical to the Le Glace en Air, being about, I believe it's a 40 degrees to get it online forward wise. Yeah, it's not very comfortable to utilize. I'm basically having to show a lot of broadside to get that third turret online. So just be careful and conscientious when you're, swinging out to utilize your triple turret, or your number 3 turret. Just to be careful, where the enemy threats are, especially those big nasty battleships, because you will get citadeled. You will get citadel. This is definitely an above water citadel, and it's not that hard to hit. So be careful with that. But yeah, I have 2 games to show you guys. Again, they're nothing like spectacular. It's just trying to highlight what the ship can do, and how you're supposed to be playing her. Again, if you're more of a high octane player, maybe the Orion 44 is more suited towards your play style, and that's okay. It's just something, again, with that whole identity of the ship, fundamentally, from the hull to the play style to the stats, I just really don't like, and I'd much rather be in the Montcalm if I have to choose between the 2 ships, is kind of what I've been saying all along. But yeah, this is definitely a little bit more passive, a little bit more relaxing to play, which is nice for a change, I think, for a cruiser. A lot of cruisers now really have to keep their head on a swivel and and realize that, oh, I'm fighting a battleship, well, he's going to go right through my schnoz. So get ready for that, right? Because there's just a lot of battleships that just say, fuck your armor, and fuck you, and then go right into your citadel and blow you up. So, being someone who almost exclusively plays cruisers for the vast majority of the time, I can assure you this is the case. So, but yeah, she is a kind of a breath of fresh air at times, and is a little bit fun to play for me, at least, when I go down to tier 6. But I don't gravitate towards her. Again, there's other tier 6 premium ships that I've been playing, especially as of late. So when this thing snuck into this event, I was like, oh fuck, I probably should review this ship. And I'm the Orion 44. Both those ships I really don't, play that often. And this comes down to the next part is, do I recommend either of these 2 ships? First of all, you already watched my DeGrasse video, or however the fuck you say that. And I actually really enjoyed the DeGrasse. And yeah, I honestly prefer the DeGrasse over this ship. I mean, I know there was a comment on that DeGrasse video, and someone said, no, the Montcalm is better. And where I'm not going to argue and say, no, you're definitely not right. I think fundamentally, if you're just, if you know and are familiar with cruiser gameplay and all that shit, I think the DeGrasse, or with DeGrasse, is just a better cruiser. I think this thing is just more appealing to players that maybe aren't as familiar with cruiser gameplay and want just a more safe version of cruiser gameplay. And they feel like they're a little bit more impactful because they can hit targets from longer range. But that being said, and then we've always talked about this, just because you have the range doesn't mean you should be sitting at that range, right? There's a good example of a battleship absolutely pounding me. And that is true. I think this thing should be played around the 16 kilometer anywhere between the 15 and up kilometer range. I think if you're playing all the way at 18 kilometers the entire game, I just don't think that's a smart decision, just because your shell velocity, which I will talk about now, isn't really going to help you in a lot, right? It's going to be a little bit harder to land those shells more consistently, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, the flight time is 7.2 seconds usually per se at 12 kilometers. If we go up to 18 kilometers, you're looking around 13 to 13.5 seconds to reach your target, right? Whereas the Le Glacenaire at a main battery range of about 16 kilometers, it's taken about 11.4 to reach the target, where the Montcalm is taking about 10.9. So they're pretty neck and neck, pretty similar. So yeah. What else? I've already talked about that. And again, the drag coefficient is a little bit less on the Montcalm again, and you have a little bit of a higher impact speed. What does this mean? Well, essentially, the drag coefficient relates to, I believe, with the crop, the weight of the shells. So that can correspond to how long it takes for your shells to reach the said target. So again, it's just little statistics that are altered in order to, I guess, and emphasize a certain play style of a ship, right? And since the Montcalm is usually played more towards the rear, as it should be, of course it's going to have just ever so slightly improved flight time, is what I'm trying to say. Is it noticeably flight time, like with like flatter shell arcs or anything like that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you do definitely have flatter shell arcs, and because your impact angle is 22.7 at 16, whereas the La Glacenaire is 26.2, so at 16 kilometers, right? So it does alter it a little bit, but these are certainly not fucking laser beams, I can assure you. So you're still going to have to lead the target accordingly. I mean, there was a couple times that I was shooting a DD at, I don't know what kilometer range, maybe 16, 17 kilometers, and I'd either had to roll out once or two notches on my mouse, or I was leading past the 20 click mark on the target. I think it was a Jaeger. So, but no, going into the overall play style of the ship, you can see that I am pre-kited, like we always should be in a lot of these HE spammy cruisers at longer ranges. And we are, again, going to be getting the HE spamming galore. I think I'm what, 15 point, 16 point, whatever kilometers away from the unalt here. So again, I want to make sure I keep my distance. This is going to allow me, this is directly going to correlate to my survivability. The further I am away from the target, the higher the chance of the battleship player, or player in general, my opponent, missing his shells, so that I can completely freeform them. What I want them to do, and again, what I'm wanting these people to do are two things. One, I would love it if they just straight out pushed into my HE spam. That is probably more of a second notch, because that allows me more free farming. It keeps reducing my range, increases my chance of landing of fires and hitting the target. But the big one, what I'm looking for, is I want him to get pissed, and I want him to turn out to either get all of his guns to bear on me, or try to do a game return and disengage. With that being said, he then shows flat broadside to my battleships, and my battleships should be able to take full advantage of that and schwack him. And I think some of them do, but that's kind of my theory and my thought process when I'm playing my cruiser. I really want the opponent to get so irritated at what I'm doing as a cruiser player that I can dictate their maneuvers, so that they can show flat broadside to my team, and hopefully my team can take full advantage of that mistake on their part. Because once you start getting frustrated and pissed, trust me, we've all been there. That's when mistakes happen usually, because you're not thinking as clearly, and there we go, right? Again, he had a submarine probably pinging him. He has me HE spamming him. I know there's another ship HE spamming him. He has battleships going in on him. So he just completely overextended at this point. No support whatsoever. Kind of rushed in, which is kind of crazy. I don't know how you rush in an on-halt, given the fact that thing has like a top speed of like 20 knots or something like that. Just a terrible ship in my opinion. And again, down the road, I will make sure I do a full deep dive ship analysis for you on that ship. But going back to the Montcalm, as you can see, I'm dictating the engagement based upon one simple thing, which is I'm frustrating the hell out of enemy ships with HE spam. And especially when you can shoot them and they can't shoot you in return because your range is 18 kilometers. That's incredible, right? That is absolutely incredible. So I'm trying to think what else I want to touch on with the Montcalm. I mean, it does have torpedoes. These torpedoes, again, are very standard. They are your they're the 6 kilometer torpedo. So the Glacenaire gets the 9 kilometer torpedoes. You only get 6 kilometer torpedoes. Rule of thumb, you don't ever want to use your torpedoes in this ship. And why is that? Because if I'm 6 kilometers away from a target, I've pretty much been or dragged out of position and no longer in my element in this ship. I think the Glacier has much more usable torpedoes, but again, the whole idea of the French torpedoes anyways being this weird like 9 kilometers or whatnot, it just seems like kind of awkward. I think a good rule of thumb too in any of my French cruisers is you never want to play within your torpedo range anyways, because the ship is no longer in what I would call its element, which means where you're going to get the most out of the ship and play based on its playstyle. I mean, a lot of French ships, if not the vast majority of them, all like playing more at range, so they can HE spam, and then when you set out your damage control party, they can min-max it with their main battery reload booster. It's kind of like how I like to play those ships, or how I like to play the French ships. I mean, there are some exceptions if we're gonna go into the nitty gritty and like talk about said specific ships. For the vast majority, though, you're gonna want to play at range. And I think this thing is a great teacher for like the Armory the Fourth, the tier 10 cruiser, all right, down the main like heavy cruiser branch. Yes, she doesn't have the 240s obviously, and she's not considered a heavy cruiser, but she's still teaching you to do the min max with the main battery reload, kind of play at these certain ranges. The only difference between this and the on-ray is that yes, you don't get that overmatch with the 240s, and you really don't want to be switching to AP too much in the Montcalm, just because your HE is just so incredibly strong in the essence that it just sets a lot of fires. If you have that range at you, and again, if you're shooting AP at 18 kilometers, your pen is probably so low that it's not going to be doing jack shit. As a matter of fact, I will talk to you about the armor piercing now. I mean, again, we're going to 18 kilometers. Your penetration is 87 millimeters, which is slightly above that of the Le Glacier. But again, remember, the Le Glacier can't get out to 18 kilometers. It can only go to 16, which the Le Glacier is coming in at 90, and the Montcalm is coming in around 94. The Le Glacier has more Krupp, and what is Krupp? Basically, Krupp is your shell hardness. That's just another factor in regards of your shell flight speed and how hard it's going to hit in the penetration. But yeah, the impact speed, the drag coefficient, the impact angle are all better on the Montcalm with the AP as well. The only difference being that the Le Glacier has higher damage and has higher shell weight. That's really about it with the armor piercing shells. Again, you both have the 0.025 second fuse time, which is pretty standard for light cruisers, and then go ahead and overmatch 10 millimeters of armor with, again, no improved ricochet angles at 45 to 60. But yeah, these are, like I said, I probably mentioned earlier in the video, they're 152 millimeter guns. These are light cruiser guns, not heavy cruiser guns. And again, the reload is rather ass. I mean, the HE DPM and AP DPM are kind of meh. But really what sets these ships apart is because they have access to the main battery reload booster, and they can up that considerably when that is up. I believe if you time a main battery reload booster right with the Glacier or the Montcalm, I believe I'm getting at least, I know a minimum of 3 salvos off, but potentially 4. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure you can get around 3 to 4 salvos off in that span of time with your consumable lasting, what, 15 seconds? So, and it goes awesome and shaves it in half. So, not terrible. But again, another big difference, because we're getting all these bonuses in regards of the range, like we have to sacrifice something, right? So what is the Montcalm sacrificing to get that range? It's sacrificing the speed boost, that French speed boost that the Le Glacier gets at 15%, right? That lasts for 180 seconds. Well, the Montcalm doesn't get anything. Doesn't get it at all. Jack shit. The only thing you can do is pick either Hydro or Defensive AA. Obviously, the Montcalm, in my opinion, should be taking Hydro, though it is a backline HE spammer, so I can understand the idea of doing the Defensive AA. The only reason why I wouldn't want to do the Defensive AA is just because your AA is that fucking bad. It is not good at all. You will hardly ever shoot down planes, so please take the hydroacoustic search. It's just going to get more utility out of it, and it's just going to be way more useful in more situations, because God forbid if you get dragged out into a bad situation, you at least have something to either spot torpedoes, to spot through smoke screens if you're that close to someone, and potentially submarines as well. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the Montcalm. I'll do my final thoughts now, just because, again, this is more of a condensed ship analysis video on these two ships, the Orion and the Montcalm, or however the fuck you say it. I just wanted to do this because the update's already been out for a while, and this event's already been running. So I want to make sure I made the content so you guys can follow up and look at it, and if you wanted to consider potentially, hey, I have the salvage for victory, or not salvage for victory, the in the name of tomorrow tokens or victory tokens, I want to, potentially get one of these ships. You can watch these 2 videos and just at least see them for what they're worth and what you're basically going to be getting, um, on average, right, for a game. I mean, obviously, it's doing you no good if I showcase a Montcalm game, I get an E rank and I get 150,000 damage. Like, yeah, like that might be the pinnacle of what you can get, but is it realistic? I don't know, right? I mean, that's 1 in 100 games or 1 in 50 games or whatever it's going to be, right? And the average World of Warships player isn't really going to be getting that consistently. So I wanted to showcase just some average gameplay of the ship, and just talk a little bit about her is basically what I was trying to do with these ship analysis videos. And this one's just a little bit of a quickened one, a little bit of a expedited one, just to get that content out there to you guys. But yeah, so my final thoughts. I mean, it is an interesting playstyle. As you can tell, it's incredibly strong because the gimmick you get isn't through a consumable. Like, yes, you get the main battery reload booster, but that's not the big thing about this ship. The big thing is that range, and you drop that I guess national flavor speed boost in order to gain this range. Is kind of like how I'm seeing it, and it makes for an interesting alternative option for you guys to play with her and play something with it. So I really do like that. And all in general, her HE spamming ability is awesome. I really do like her HE spamming ability as well. You're gonna find you're setting a lot of fires, especially in combination with that main battery reload booster. And then lastly, guys, because you have that 18-kilometer range, understand your positioning and make sure you're around that 14 to 16, 17 range. You don't want to exceed 17 kilometers because, again, your shells aren't going to be reliably hitting the target and consistently for you guys, right? So anyways, guys, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoy. Remember to like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.